It is May 7th of 1763, and a large party of about 300 Native Americans walked through the gates of Fort Detroit, hiding their weapons, and hoping to capture the fort in a surprise attack. However, upon walking into the fort, the men find themselves surrounded by armed British soldiers, with a commanding officer shouting, "Chief Pontiac, in the name of King George III, you are under arrest." What ensues is a bloodbath. But Pontiac, leader of an alliance of the Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Huron, escaped the battle with a number of soldiers. It is time for a siege. Pontiac was born sometime between 1712 and 1725. It is disagreed where he was born, with some sources stating he was born along either the Detroit or Maumee rivers, but other sources place his birthplace as modern Defiance, Ohio, with Pontiac Park supposedly being his birthplace. It is even disagreed what nation he was from, with his mother possibly being Ojibwe and his father Odawa. But other sources say one of his parents was Miami. In 1723, Pontiac moved to Fort Detroit, becoming a respected leader among the Odawa. In 1747, Pontiac sided with the French against the Wyandot leader, Nicholas Orotoni, who led an alliance of people from the Ohio country. Pontiac continued supporting the French during the 7 Years' War, known in the U.S. as the French and Indian War, from 1754 to 63, but upon the British capture of Quebec, the war ended with Britain gaining substantial tracts of land, including Fort Detroit. In 1761, the British built a fort in Ohio country called Fort Sandusky, despite saying they wouldn't build forts in the region. The British also restricted native access to gunpowder and ammo, which were needed for hunting. The peoples of the region began to express anger toward their British occupiers, who they believed were attempting subjugation. By 1761, many were calling for action to be taken against the British. This was assisted by a Lenape prophet named Neolin, who called for a rejection of European ways of life and a return to the traditional ways. On April 27, 1763, Pontiac held a large council about 10 miles south of Fort Detroit, at a spot known as Council Point Park in modern Lincoln Park, Michigan, where he proposed a surprise attack on Fort Detroit. After assessing the strength of the fort, Pontiac stated in a second council, "It is important for us, my brothers, that we exterminate from our lands this nation which seeks to destroy us. You see, as well as I, that we can no longer supply our needs, as we have done from our brothers, the French. Therefore, my brothers, we must all swear their destruction, and wait no longer." On May 7th, 1763, Pontiac and his men walked into the gates of Fort Detroit with hidden weapons, only to walk into an ambush. The fort's commander, Major Henry Gladwin, had been warned of the upcoming attack and prepared. Pontiac escaped the brawl and laid siege to the fort 2 days later, attacking any English settlements or people they found, while sparing the French. The war has begun. Fort Sandusky was burned on May 16th, along with 7 other British forts, including Fort Michilimackinac, built at the meeting place of the Council of Three Fires. There was also an unsuccessful siege against Fort Pitt in modern Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At Fort Detroit, nearly 900 people from up to 6 nations had gathered to take Detroit. On July 31st, The British attempted a surprise attack of their own on Pontiac's force, but were soundly defeated at the Battle of Bloody Run, with up to 20 men dying and many more being wounded. Fort Pitt was relieved of its siege following the Battle of Bushy Run on August 20th, where the British victory was assisted by biological warfare, as blankets infected with smallpox are recorded in fort records to have been traded to the besieging natives. This victory was followed by a bloody defeat on September 14th. A force of Odawa, Ojibwa, and Seneca attacked a supply caravan, killing up to 70 British in what was dubbed the Devil's Hole Massacre. Due to the violence, a faction of western Pennsylvanians known as the Paxton Boys, growing discontent with their government, began to travel through the Pennsylvania countryside, burning any native villages they saw, but were stopped by the British in January of 1764. By October of 1763, Pontiac had decided to lift his siege of Detroit. While the British thought he was defeated, Pontiac was only growing in power and influence. Pontiac's siege of Fort Detroit sparked native resistance all the way to Virginia and Maryland, where some of the bloodiest fighting occurred. But by October of 1763, the rebellion in Ohio country had largely been put down. The first treaty was signed with the Seneca at Fort Niagara in early August of 1764, with a second, more tenuous peace being signed with the peoples of Ohio country in July of 1765. Finally, peace was made with Pontiac at Fort Ontario in modern Oswego, New York, on July 25th of 1766. No lands were exchanged, and no prisoners were returned. Pontiac's war, despite being framed by the colonists as a victory, was a stalemate. The British were unable to defeat the natives of the Midwest, and as a result, concluded that the colonists and the natives had to be separated. This is the line of thinking that led to the Proclamation Line of 1763, which was in the works when Pontiac began his war, but was rushed through with the outbreak of violence. The line ran along the Appalachian Ridge, and colonists were not permitted to travel past it, sparking an outrage that would be another spark in the flame of the American Revolution. Pontiac was assassinated near Cahokia, Illinois, by a Peoria man whose name is lost to history. The man was avenging his uncle, who Pontiac had killed in 1766. The man surprised Pontiac with a club from behind, stunning him before stabbing him to death. The Peoria Council had approved Pontiac's death, causing the nations who respected or owed allegiance to Pontiac to immediately declare war on the Illinois Confederacy, which the Peoria belonged to. The Illinois were attacked by the Sauk, Fox, Kickapoo, Sioux, Ojibwa, Odawa, and Potawatomi, along with the Cherokee and Choctaw from the south, dooming to Illinois to a quick and brutal fate. Pontiac is said to be under a parking garage on the corner of Walnut and South Broadway streets in modern St. Louis, Missouri. The actions of Pontiac laid a groundwork for the Great Lakes Confederacy, which formed as a response to the United States and would be the height of post-Columbian Native American power in the Midwest. Thanks for watching.